Welcome to the Canton County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, May the 3rd. This time we're going to stand and have the invocation by Commissioner Brandt, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father God, once again, we come before you seeking the wisdom and guidance in the decisions that we make that they benefit all of Camden County. Father, we seek to ask that you just continue to bless those that serve, whether it be here or abroad. This we pray in your most glorious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If everybody will mute their phones and watches and whatnot, that'll be great. We got roll call, Ms. Bishop.
Yes, Commissioner Reddick is attending virtually.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Reddick is attending via WebEx.
Can you hear us?
I can. Good evening. How are y'all?
Glad to have you there. All right, do we have any agenda amendments?
There are none.
Seeing none, did I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
To adopt the agenda presented.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we've got the minutes to the April 19th regular meeting and public. Are there any additions, corrections? If not, gotta get a motion on that, please.
Motion to approve the April 19th, 2022 minutes.
Second. We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. At this time, we're gonna have a little presentation, something that we've been talking about. For our 2022 tax digest, which, obviously drives the revenues and drives everything else. And we're gonna have that little presentation by our chief appraiser, Mr. Brian Bishop.
Yes,
You're
sir.
up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Thank y'all for having me up here. I just want to, pretty much the same as we did last year with the 2021 digest. I want to talk about, what we've done for the 2022 digest. This is the digest that ends on January 1st of 22. So anything that has occurred after that date, we haven't really looked at too much. So, first thing on here is just a general overview. The 2022 tax digest figures given are countywide estimates based on our analysis done to date. They don't include estimates for motor vehicles, mobile homes, timber, or public utilities. The values presented are 40% of fair market value or the assessed value. This projection does not account for the impact from any exemptions such as Homestead or Freeport. As an overview, though, do estimate a projected tax digest increase of about 16% over 2021. Again, this is just values. This is not taxes. Your taxes are calculated off these values, but in the assessor's office, we just deal with just the values. This digest projection does not take into account any after digest adjustments due to tax appeals or anything like that, though. So this is just kind of by the numbers, kind of what we've done in our office over during the course of the year. This will be from January 1st, 21 till January 1st of 2022. Our staff reviewed 1,830 building permits. We received and processed 138 conservation use applications, 871 homestead applications, and 23 folks chose to file an appeal on their 21 value. We took 623 of those to the Board of Equalization and defended our values. 70 of those were changed by the Board of Equalization. 89 folks filed to Superior Court with their appeals. Total reviews that we did this year, 5,374. Those reviews would have been reviewing permits, sales, appeals, any reason that we had to go out to a house or a property, go and take a look at it. This is interesting to me. This is from our assessor's website. You can find it at CamdenCountyMaps.com. It's got some stats on there that I pulled and I have up here. That's for 2020. We had right at 280,000 total visits. 2021 over 400,000. That just kind of tells the tale of what's been going on in the real estate market in Camden County in the past few years. And it's got the average visits per day up there. One thing I will say about our website, it really is the go-to place. I found out for real estate people, for taxpayers, closing attorneys, anybody uses this website. The information contained on there is the information from the approved 2021 digest. So if you're going there and look for a sale or your new house that you just bought in 2022, it's not going to be on the website. It'll be on there after we flip the digest over and the digest gets approved by the Board of Assessors. So if you have any question, call the office anytime about anything. But it's a great place to find, if you're in the market looking for a new home, place to go look at the house, on the tax records. It also has sales on there. There's links on there that tell you how to file appeals, exemptions, pretty much anything else. I mean, it's a one-stop shop. It really is, but it doesn't have the most current information if you're looking for the 2022 information, which you can call the office to get that. Next thing, can't really see it very well. I'll call them out. These are the this is a list of the average home prices over the past 14 years. So back in 2008, the average sales price of a home was $190,000. We went through the recession soon after that, 2009, 10, 11, and we really didn't start recovering until about 2016 in Camden County. We started seeing prices go up. But we got as low as $132,000 for the average sale price of a home. That was in 2014. 2022, we're up to $265,000 is the average price for a home. So as you can see, we took a dip around 2014, went through the recession, got all the foreclosures sold, and we started going back up. We didn't see as much of a rise in 2020 because of COVID. There's just a little bit of a dip there, but COVID really did not affect the real estate market at all. So next, we've got the number of new homes built per year. I ran this back to 2012. We built 140 new homes in 2012. 2013 was our lowest, only 9 new homes built that year. You can see it's been steadily going up, and then it took a dip there again, right around the first part of 2020, COVID-19 again. It took a dip there. People weren't building as many homes as they had been, but you can see we're back on the uptick now. So for 2022, we've added 517 new homes. To put that into perspective, I started in the assessor's office back in 2004. 2006, I think we picked up almost 700 homes in 2006. So that would have been the peak year. There was a lot of building going on back then. But you can see we're definitely getting back up there, close to where we were. Plus the prices of the homes have increased so much. It's really had a large impact on the digest. When we're looking at growth of the digest, we look at two separate categories, real and inflationary growth. Real growth would be where we, added something new to the digest. It wasn't something that was existing in the previous digest that the value has gone because of inflation. So if we look at just the real growth for 2022, we've added over $117 million in residential properties. That's new homes. And just over 31 million in commercial properties. value has been added to the tax digest for 2022.
Let me
Yes, sir.
interrupt you.
Sure.
When you pointed out commercial,
Mhm.
that would be apartment complexes too, wouldn't it?
That would be anything that is classed as commercial on our digest.
I want to clarify.
Yes, sir.
People think of apartment complexes as being residential.
They're commercial income producing.
They're
Yes,
commercial
sir.
properties.
Right. Yes, sir. They are. Yes, sir. They are. And those, in those commercials, you've seen some of the larger apartment complexes going up over on, Coleraine and stuff like that. There's been 2 or 3 others that have been built, and we've got a few more being built.
There's 2 or 3 more that I'm aware of
There sure are.
that have started.
Right. Yes, sir. Mhm. Inflationary growth, that is, as I put up there, increased due to inflation. That is just the price of things have gone up. The price of a home is just more. So as the market increases by, state of Georgia statute, we have to keep our values within a certain level of what things are actually selling for. So as the prices increase on homes, our values on the digest also increase to follow those numbers as closely as we can. But that's the amount of inflation we've seen just since 2021, since the last digest was sent out. $613 million added to the digest.
Hold 1 second there, Brian.
Mhm.
That
Yes,
six
sir.
hundred and 13 million, does that include residential and commercial?
That
All
is,
of them?
that's everything. Yes, sir. That's the total. Yes, sir.
Residential inflationary growth is not gonna be, if you're homesteaded, there's gonna be no tax increase in tax revenue.
Not if you're only in the county, yes, there is a,
Well, I'm talking about whether you're in the county or the city, but for county tax purposes, the county part.
right, yes, sir, that's correct. In 2007, the citizens of Camden County passed a bill, very similar to one they have up in, Glenn County. It essentially freezes your value for tax purposes at the value it was before the year that you signed up for homestead exemption. So if you came in today and signed up for homestead exemption, you'll be getting it for, the 22 tax year. Your value will be frozen at in 2021. That's just for your county taxes. So Mary's taxes are going to still increase. Woodbine taxes, Kingsland taxes are still going to increase. But your county taxes are pretty much frozen if the millage rate doesn't change. And I'm just talking about values again. There's values and taxes. So, as long as the millage rate stays the same, your homestead increases to offset any inflationary, value increase.
I would like to add, I know I've been out of the whole time, this is from the state. But actually, this was not done to the state, this is what we did to ourselves to be comparable to Brunswick. When you understand who brought the bill to us, then that would be Jeff Jones, who's now the
Chapman, yes, sir.
Chapman,
Yes, sir.
not Chapman, Chapman. He's the tax commissioner now. So, and that gave us our frozen values, if you will.
Right. And, in Georgia, there's 159 counties, and I think I heard a figure one time that, said about 60 counties are currently using some sort of a frozen value right now. But it does shelter the taxpayer from any, tax increases on the property for county purposes.
I don't want to get ahead of you, but,
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead.
Everybody sits and looks at this. I've looked at it as well, but sometimes you need a little background to fully understand what it's saying to us. As far as, for example, a homestead exemption.
Yes, sir.
When you homestead your property, that gives you
It gives you a break on your taxes each year. If you're under age 62, you can come in and sign up for homestead exemption. You have to physically own and physically live at the property. It has to be your legal residence for all purposes as of January 1st of that year. When you sign up for homestead, in the state of Georgia, you're taxed on 40% of the fair market value. So if your house is valued at $100,000, you're taxed on $40,000. The homestead exemption takes $4,000 if you're under 62, takes $4,000 off that assessed value. So you'd essentially be taxed on $36,000. If you're 60, it takes $25,000 off. So, you would only be taxed, on the assessed value minus $25,000. And there's other exemptions also, for, us, of, our service members killed in action, stuff like that, fallen, peace officers, anything like that, firefighters. There's all kind of different exemptions that, the state has put those in place.
Let's elaborate
But yeah.
just a little bit more on this $25,000,
Mhm.
this $25,000 homestead exemption.
Sure.
Around the state, it's normally what?
10,000.
Why are we 25?
Well, I was talking to Mr. Blunt about this before we got up here, and I went to a class a while back with the state, and we were talking about homestead exemptions, and they had a chart of the list of all the homestead exemptions throughout the counties in the state. Well, Camden kind of stood out. The teacher, he said Camden is 25,000. He said that's one of the highest in Georgia. He said most of them are $10,000. And he said, why is it 25? Well, I did a little bit of research, and it looks like that Camden wanted theirs to be like Nassau County or Duval County, a senior homes exemption, which theirs is 25,000. The only difference is Florida taxes on 100% of the value, Georgia taxes on 40. So in Camden County, you actually do get more exemption age 62 over most of the counties in the state. Is that where you're going with that?
Well, yes, and that 25,000, well, that $25,000 comparable to Florida equates to just under a 75,000
Yes, sir.
off the 100%
Yeah.
value. So it's significant. And these are the type things that I've been talking about since I've been up here that affect our digest heavily as our population of home ownership grows. Our exemptions are climbing, and I've not looked to see how they comply compared to what the growth is.
Well,
But
if you look back at that one slide I did, it's 800 and something new homestead exemptions this year. So you're getting more and more each year. It depends on what they're frozen in at though. So,
differentiate between under 62 versus 62 and up.
no, that's just the total of all of them. Yes, sir.
But the point being, it's a significant cut in the revenue stream into the county.
Sure.
And, which is one of the reasons you want to have a digest that is trending commercial, because they don't get that. It's just like the apartment complex. You take an apartment complex that has residential in it, it's valued at $5 million, no exemptions. Downside to that, apartment complex that size, the infrastructure impacts, the impacts on school systems and our infrastructure, public safety and all is significant. So there's an offsetting inequity there.
Sure. Looking on to commercial properties, for 2022, we added 15 new commercial structures, and that could be anything from a restaurant being built down on Highway 40 to a $20 million apartment complex being built somewhere. We class them all as commercial. That's just, if they produce income, we call them commercial pretty much. But we did add 15 new buildings this year. We started this in 2021, but we've continued on into 22, and that's valuing apartments using the income approach. Prior to 2021, we valued them off the cost approach, which is what it would cost to rebuild that structure minus depreciation. It's not really the best way to value income producing properties. So what we did was went out and we gathered all the rental and occupancy data from all the apartments and also the hotels and motels this year also. So we're looking at valuing those on the income approach, and it's giving us a lot better value when we're looking at once they sell compared to our value, we're coming in a whole lot closer.
Well, one of the things that also cleans up is if you take a commercial piece of property, this commercial property built in an area of the county that's not trending with high values, in an area that's, say, around the interstate. Those two values ordinarily would be valued the same.
Mhm.
Whereas when when you get to use the income revenue stream approach, obviously the commercial property built in a more expensive commercial area, you're gonna get a more fair market,
Sure.
based on the revenue stream.
Mhm.
You take the same apartment built in two different places, you might be renting one for 1,200 and one for 1,700. And so they should be valued based on that,
Yeah,
just to give some, little more clarity to it.
sure. And, always if you're appraised any property, the best way to appraise it is how it sells. Apartments are selling based on their income producing possibility. Homes sell based on the market. So that's the way to value those. You have to use the right approach. But we have started using that, and it's, had, great results with it, actually. We had, quite a few appeals filed in 2021, and, we came out pretty good with those at during, the hearings on appeals based on our new information. Some, new stuff that's coming online and just some stuff that's happened. We've added 5 new apartment complexes in the past 5 years. If you start to think about where you've seen construction around town, one of the ones that always comes to mind is the one off of Kings Bay Road across from the Walmart. That was one that has been added. Millions on that, tens of millions. These things are selling for a lot of money. We've had 4 sales this past year of apartment complexes in excess of 10 million each. We had one that sold in 2019, 2020, and 2021 for about 3 million more each time. They haven't done anything to it. It's a very hot market right now with apartments in the county. And as Chairman Blunt stated, we do have 4 new apartment complexes that are slated to be started this year or in the soon to come up. Two of those are off of Winding Road. They're currently being built. There's also one down off of Grove Boulevard in south of Grove in Kingsland, and there's a new one that I've heard is going to be built at 5 Points over in Kingsland off for Grove and right there too. So that'll be another complex. And we've tossed around the office, obviously, why are we getting so many apartment complexes? You can theorize 1,000 different things. I think it's just there's a very limited supply of homes on the market right now, and the prices are high. And and also coming up with payment on a house too. We thought about that too. Maybe maybe folks are having a hard time coming up with the down payment to buy a house, so they're choosing to rent. But for whatever reason, we are flush with apartments right now, and they're a $1,500 rent is about what you're going to get for the lowest rent right now, anywhere up to close to $2,000.
Well, and also, when those 4 sales occur, as you stated earlier, those sales prices were bad. They look at all of it. They look at the cost,
Mhm.
cost of construction. They look at cost to rebuild, but they also looking at the revenue stream.
Sure.
That's what the lenders.
That's
looking
what they're
at.
looking at. Yes, sir.
And that also substantiates when those 4 get sold, that also gives you a good idea of the revenue stream on those, or for a basis for a value in the others.
You start to build a market, right? Yes, sir. Mhm.
So, I mean, they bring a lot of value, but they bring, a lot of impact.
Yeah.
to
But
counties.
I mean, we are seeing a lot of apartments. But like I said, we're up to, over 500 new homes built this year too. Or in 21 for 22. That's still a lot of homes. I mean, I would not be surprised if we break the 600-700 mark next year. I mean, there's just a lot of folks moving into Camden County and, buying homes and stuff. So,
Going back to your number that you mentioned earlier, at the end of 2006, basically 2007, it died off. At that point in time, leading up to that, I was in St. Mary's City Council. There were plats coming from everywhere. You had more platted properties. I'm talking about shovel ready, lots in ready. We had a tremendous inventory of lots
mhm.
at the end of 2007. And so there's not been that much subdivision development between now and then.
No, there has not, no, sir.
That inventory of those platted lots is what's been built on for the last 10 years.
Mhm.
Or, starting back when there was enough.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And that's what's being utilized. And what you got now is there's no inventory. There's no lot inventory, and, they're all gobbled up.
That's exactly right, yeah.
And there's no homes sitting out there on the market. You put a home in the market now. I mean, I've listened to people talk about homes being put on the market in St. Mary's. They put it on there 30 minutes to an hour later. They got six folks bidding on it that are paying over the price. We don't generally have that. So there's a lot of factors that are driving, plus the cost of building a home. Folks that do want to sell and move, they're just swapping one for another because the cost of replacing it now is, I know I'm preaching to the choir somewhat, but those are all factors, interest rates, that are driving. And this is one of the things that I want to point out, that our respective planning and zoning departments need to be mindful of this type of growth. When you get an apartment complex built on one of our busy roads, winding road, therefore it doesn't matter. And you put 400 or 500 units in there, and you basically got one ingress egress, you have exponentially compounded traffic issues, fire calls, police. I mean, impact fees on these commercial developments. And I preached it when I was to deaf ears, but you've got to start looking at that stuff, because it does. I mean, our public safety, whether it's fire, police, or EMS predominantly, the call increases are exponentially increased. So it's, you need, it's going to put an emphasis on our planning and zoning departments to start taking a look at how much are they going to keep allowing and start managing that growth. Or we're going to turn into a giant bedroom.
Mhm. That's very true. Yes, sir. Yeah, what we're seeing now is, most of the subdivisions that came online and actually had most of them built out by about 2007, 2008, most of those did okay. There were some subdivisions that had just been platted and came online right when 2008, 2009 was about to hit. And those subdivisions had just sat. I'm talking about Bridgepoint, North Shore, Cumberland Harbor, things like that. Most of the stuff that we were seeing built back in 06, 07 was out in the lakes out there, and those are already platted subdivisions where they were just building houses on the lots that they already had. Right now, we're not seeing a lot of spec homes built. People are pretty much, buying them and then they build them. These builders are not really putting themselves out there. It doesn't look like so much anymore as they were back then.
But you take Cumberland Harbor alone.
Sure.
Well, Cumberland Harbor alone probably had 1,000, 1,100 platted properties.
That's about right. Yes, sir.
And when it started, and lots were selling starter price at 30,000-ish, 30,000. 9 months later, they were selling for 130 to 160.
Yeah.
And then we've all heard, folks, of how they've gone out there and bought those lots for 5,000.
They sure have.
And I'm talking that those are just regular lots, and lots that are waterfront lots that were people paid at the time paid 1.1, 1.2 billion for one I think he ended up selling it for 400.
Mhm.
Point being, there was a tremendous inventory of lots all over the county. We do not have that now.
Right.
All right, I quit with all that.
Oh, you're fine.
But
What I've got up here next, a recap of the taxable digest. I wanted to clarify this, and this is just the taxable digest. We have a lot of property is tax exempt. We've got about 700 properties in the county that are tax exempt. That would be churches, county-owned properties, city-owned properties, state-owned properties, anything that's owned by the public or used by the public is possibly tax exempt. That'd be all your schools, a new tech school out there, anything like that. Those would be on the tax exempt digest. They're not taxable. So what I've done here is just compiled the sums of the digest since 2006 all the way up to 2022. And I'll start up here. If you can see my little pointer thing up there, this is 2006. We're at about $1.1 billion digest. Now this is the 40% value now. This is all in 40%. You can see we went up 2009 right here. The Great Recession comes in, foreclosure, banks are failing, this, that, and other. That happens all about right in this area here. This right here is where you start to have home sales of the foreclosures in this area here taken up from the homes that were foreclosed on by the banks here. So you see a downward turn in the values because they were selling for less. The values are obviously less. This was about the lowest that we've been. That would have been 2015 since here. And since then, you can see we've been on I wouldn't say a steady increase, but it has increased slightly. That's 2018 right here. And then we went a few years here. This would have been COVID right between here and here. You can see we went up from there to there. And this is us in 2022. We're up to a $2 billion assessed digest now. We've never had a digest that high in the history of Camden County, Georgia. This was the highest here back in 2009. We did a revaluation in 2009 based off of sales from 6, 7, and 8. It didn't work out so well for us. I don't know if any of y'all were here back then. It was there were people literally marching out on the front lawn out here with picket signs and stuff because we had raised the value so much. And in the middle of a recession, that's just the timing got us really bad. But this is where we are now. This is right now from here to here. If you did the math, it's about 20% from what we had on there last year. Now, I'm not saying that values have increased that much in 1 year. Our digest last year was a little bit below where it needed to be at, and we brought it back up to where it needs to be at this year. We will be sending out let me get this next slide real quick, Dave.
Well, you pointed out in one of the first slides that
Sure.
to get us up there, we had $150 million roughly in
Right.
real growth.
Right, yes,
That
sir.
would be on new properties, not
Yeah.
properties that were here and reassessed and values have gone up. All real growth.
Well, it's the value also, Chairman. It's when I have 150,000, it's worth 250,000 now. If you're adding 500, then at 500 now, you're adding a lot more just because of the amount, the value difference in those homes.
Say that again, I didn't follow you, I'm sorry.
I was saying if you built 500 homes back in 06 at $100,000 and 500 now at $300,000, you're getting a lot more money on your digest.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can build fewer homes, but
Sure,
much
sure.
larger impact on the
Yeah.
digest.
That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
But the point is, the main increase in our digest has been new growth.
It is new growth. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It sure is. New growth of both kinds, real and inflationary growth. The real growth, it's called real because it's real. It's
The inflationary part-
that's going to be there. And inflationary is that's your variable part. You know what I mean? So
I got you, but
Yeah.
the whole thing of it is, you know, as it impacts the county and the county's budget, the inflationary part doesn't really impact.
Right.
By and large, inflationary growth is on properties that are homesteaded. What you've been in, and as he stated, when you acquire a piece of property the year before, say that value, as far as it relates to county revenue, now this does not impact St. Mary's, Kingsland, Woodbine, or the school board. This is purely county properties only. Your value, your assessed value can go to the moon.
Mhm.
You're locked in on that frozen value. The only that you're going to realize increase is if the millage rate goes up higher than it was. You know, so I want to draw those correlations, whereas in 20 to 21, we lowered it 0.22. So, you know, I don't think that that was really a great idea, but, you know, folks were coming out of things, COVID was hitting everybody. So we're trying to give some relief.
Yes, sir. And, again, when we're, you know, my job is to assess properties at the fair market value. We're only looking at value.
Exactly.
When the commissioner's looking at, you're looking at the actual taxes generated from that value. So that's, you know,
Yeah,
two different,
we
yeah.
get a lot of
yeah.
calls. I get a lot of calls from people. Well, why did my value go so high? Why don't you do something? Well, Brian's in one of those departments that I don't tell Brian how to do his job. And I don't interfere with what Brian does because I can't. I can do it. And we as commissioners are not involved in the assessing process at all. And as he stated, the assessor's office, its job, its number one goal is to assess property regardless of who what at the fair, at the most reasonable value. And we've all looked at our properties after the assessment and said, well, would you sell it for that? Well, no. Yeah, if the truth be told, it's a daunting task. And you'll get some areas that have, you know, you assess in blocks, I presume.
Yes, sir.
And so you may get an area that has, where they've gone out and reassessed. You can't, it's almost impossible for you to reassess the entire county at one time unless you just do it, an inflationary percentage and just say, we're going up 4% or whatever.
Yeah, we break it down into, different classes of property. We have, 5 different classes: residential, agricultural, commercial, industrial, and, exempt property. So we look at each class and then we find out where those values are is, you know, the value compared to the sales prices. And like I said, we have to be within a certain range of those, or the state can come in and actually fine the county. They did that back in 2008, fined us $40,000 because our values were so low. So we try to keep them, you know, where they're supposed to be at. But yeah, just looking back, I'm looking back at this other sheet, going from 2020 to 2022, the average home sales price went up $60,000 in 2 years. So when you start thinking about that, we are historic market. I saw some figures the other day. There's a real estate company that keeps track, has for the past 40 years. They say between 21 and 22 is the highest increase they've ever seen in the past 40 years since they've been doing this. You know, real estate is doing great right now. But to go back to the thing about the values going up, a lot of people are not going to see any increase on your taxes. You might see a little bit because of the value increase. You might see some, but on your city taxes, but for the most part, most people have a homestead exemption on their property. So you're not really going to see that much of an increase on your tax bill.
That's, I mean, unless the millage rate goes up, you don't see the increase.
Right. Yes.
The only increase in your escrow account, you know, if you pay it, you're one of those that's got your house paid off and you pay it directly, it's going to be predominantly between the cities and the school board.
Right.
I mean, bugging Brian a little bit, but I'm.
No, I don't mind at all.
No, I know, and you know what you're talking about, and you don't really get the opportunity, because we get these questions a lot. You know, as commissioners, and, you know, we try to make it clear, because your assessments are the ones the cities use as well.
Yes, sir. We're the only assessing office in town. That's correct.
Exactly. And, you know, you try to make it as fair and equitable as possible. And I just kind of, that's why I want you to kind of go into the methodology to see what it's done, because it's a huge task.
Well, there's three standards that we're tested on, and we run tests for these all year long. That's the level of assessment. Are we uniform amongst the assessments? Which means are we appraising all the properties at the same level? And also, are we appraising higher priced properties at the same level as we are the lower priced properties? So those are the three things that we look at, and that's the same things the State Department of Revenue and the Department of Audits looks at also each year. We have to meet all those criteria that are set. This is just something I just wanted to throw in here just so everybody could see. We hear a lot of talk about we need we're mostly a residential based county as far as the tax base goes. This is just breaking it down by the values. This is not by the taxes paid by these groups, but residential, we're about 63% of the digest. Agricultural is 4%, commercial is 13%. Exempt makes up 17% of our digest.
Brian, do you have just,
Sure.
I thought would,
Mhm.
shouldn't be difficult for you. You've looked at these numbers, so you cross-eyed. Do you have any idea as to what percentage the exempt has changed over the years? Have you had any analytical data on that?
It hasn't changed that much over the years. We haven't added a whole lot of exempt properties over the years. We'll add,
When you say exempt,
that means
you're talking about the churches and the municipal governmental properties.
they pay no taxes. Yes, sir.
Now, we're not talking about, and I know this part you don't really get into with the residential, you know, how much our homestead, then our seniors, you know, how much that is either.
I don't know right off the bat. I know looking at tax bills, I know there's some properties, we can have the property valued at $450,000 and they're paying taxes on $80,000 just because of that homestead exemption freeze. It was, some people like it, some people don't. If you have it, you like it a lot. But it was put in place and I don't see it going anywhere.
I had a lady come up to me the other day, lives in St. Mary's. I want to know why my property taxes are 3 times higher than the lady that lives 3 doors down from me, and we're basically in the same house. Man, when did you get in there? Well, I got in there last year.
Yeah.
How long has she been there for? That's a classic example.
That's exactly right. We have people, this homestead freeze was passed in 2007. So we have a lot of folks in the county that are still frozen at that 2007 value. So, you know, they pretty much have shielded themselves from any type of inflation as far as their property taxes go. So if you own a home, come on in and sign up for homestead exemption. We got plenty of pens and applications. There's
Part of the logic for that, back in the day when you had, you know, folks in St. Mary's and the older population that was sitting there that, you know, they were in the house that their husband built or the granddaddy built, they'd been in there forever. And then you started having the, you know, the changes that came to Camden County when the Navy came in and things started getting more expensive. You had older folks that were on fixed income. And they had properties around them that were forcing their values to go up. Their home basically hadn't changed in 50 years. And they're getting on the verge of getting taxed out of their homes where their tax bill was going to be greater than, you know, what they paid for. And I think this was an attempt to kind of protect someone from getting, once you're in there, to get from being taxed out of your property. And that's a good thing. But everything's a double-bladed sword. Now we're reaping are basically, we're not reaping some of the revenues and the descriptions, the differences in those exemptions because they are steady growing because those things have been in place now since 2007. And, it's really taking a toll on the county. Stupid things keep cutting off. Go ahead, Brian. I got to relog in, so I'll park
Right.
that up for a minute.
Yeah, and I think what you're trying to say, Chairman, is there is a difference, and I know I've pointed out 2 or 3 times, but there is a big difference between revenues and value. There's a big difference. So even though we're talking about the digest, going up, I know 16 to 20% this year, you're not gonna see the revenues aren't gonna go up that much because of the homestead exemptions and stuff like that.
Well, when you said when you were looking at this chart up here, where you got commercials representing 13%. Now, the reason you want commercial? How much of the property tax is being paid by commercial?
About 30% of the taxes are paid by commercial.
Commercial 13%. But they're paying 30%. Because they don't have all these exemptions and all these things that were put in place for well-intended reasons. But when you're losing your commercial base, all these places, small businesses, all of it factors in. You're sliding the wrong way.
I have one question, Brian.
Yes, sir.
In your commercial slot there,
Mhm.
combine industrial with that?
Yes, sir, we do. Yeah, yes, sir, we sure do. Yeah. We don't have a industrial property around the county. We've had, some down in St. Mary's at the, industrial park down there off of, Point Peter. Some of that is, industrial, and there's a couple of sites scattered around the county, but not a whole lot of industrial property. Agricultural is, I mean, it's only 4% there, but that'd be all your timberland and stuff that you have around the county and stuff like that. So, but the point I did want to leave you guys with is that the digest is at a record number this year. And as you can see, we're going to be able to uphold those values. You can see how many we were able to keep the value where it was at the Board of Equalization. So appeals aren't going to be that big of a factor this year. We are getting a lot more of tax appeals filed to Superior Court. It used to cost you something like $280 to file to Superior Court. That changed 3 years ago to $25 to file now. Now that puts us in a position where we have to, get somebody to defend us in court. The county attorney sometimes not. Sometimes he has a conflict with some of the people that file appeals. So that's become kind of a big thing for us over the past few years is the number of Superior Court appeals. But
And for the most part,
mhm.
people that have reasonable issues, those are generally handled the tax assessors or the appeals office.
Most of them, if you come in and talk to us, we
The ones that go to
can
court,
explain it. Yeah, they have
Envelope.
an issue other than the value sometimes. Leave it at that. But anyway, digest building is up. We're going to be revaling each and every year from now on. I know people talk about, we did a reval 5 years ago. We're doing one each year as needed. We're running those studies on each of these property classes every year. If it needs to go up or down.
In those 5 classes you're talking about?
Yes, sir. We're looking at those each and every year now. We're not going to drop the ball on this, but if you look at them every year, you always stay right there. You're never this far away and then you got to make up this much ground, you're always right there.
In 20,
Mhm.
was it 20 that we held you in?
Yeah, we actually froze the values for the 2020 digest. We left the numbers at the 2019 levels, regardless of what the numbers said. That was for the benefit of the taxpayers. So nobody saw an increase in the 2020 tax year, even though the values were going up on the market. the Board of Assessors chose to keep them at the same levels because of COVID and didn't want to put any undue duress on the taxpayers because of that. Well, it was a catch-22, you know, we help people out, but at the same time, we got that much further from fair market value. So we're trying to make it up now, to get back so the state won't come in on us. Anyway, this is just a timeline of what we're doing next. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure.
In the future,
Mhm.
you know, break the industrial and commercial apart.
Absolutely. Sure. Okay. That's how they look at it, Mr. Casey, when they're looking at the audit each year for us. They put commercial and industrial together is how they do it. That's the reason I put them together, but we can break it down however y'all like. I mean, we can have chart after chart or chart if y'all want, and, you know.
I mean, I think our industrial,
Too correct.
our industrial, we know our industrial properties,
Right, they are, they really are.
you know, at one point, I agree with Ben in that, you know, if we start having, you know, some industrial growth, then it'd be a good way to measure, you know, where we're growing.
Absolutely, sure. Would, yeah.
Thank you.
Brian, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I have a question before we get too far away. When you talk about the exempt properties and everything, isn't everything that the hospital owns as far as the service industry and all the buildings around it, that's all tax exempt?
Yes, sir. That is
The
considered,
biggest moneymaker in Camden County is exempt from all taxes.
that is a hospital authority and they are statutorily exempt. Yes, sir, they sure are.
Just let people know that.
Sure, yes, sir.
Good point.
Yes.
Well, as much
Salon track.
Yeah, the Salem track as well. Well, that's exempt as well.
27 thousand acres of saline tract off the digest. But
Conservation and states involved with that one.
plus Cabin Bluff, that's another.
That one's not tax exempt.
Cabin Bluff,
It's not tax exempt. That's open.
as being said, yeah, it's on its way, I bet you.
No,
Mr.
that-
Chairman,
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I've got a couple of comments before we get too far off this. I don't know if Brian's wrapped up or not, but I'll make it quick.
I'm still here.
Okay, do you have more presentation to do, or is this?
No, sir, that's about it. Go ahead with your question.
Okay, all right. No, I was just gonna say, I agree with the chairman. We need a larger commercial and industrial tax digest. You know, and I think one of the ways to attract industry is with an educated workforce. So, I mean, you know, one of those things that's kind of gone along with the accomplishments we've done in the last few years is getting a technical college here. You know, and I'm not going to try to define affordable housing. I think a large majority of the homes being built is classified as workforce housing. You know, these are homes for teachers, firemen, public safety. I mean, pillars of the community. You know, and I agree. I mean, the rental surge is likely due to affordability issues. I mean, it's tough to come up with down payments. You know, you've got cost and values associated with the homes, and so I mean, just because it's necessarily, you know, cost more doesn't mean it's worth more. It's only worth is what people are willing to pay and, you know, how much they can afford. So I know in Georgia, regulatory expenses make up 27% of the total cost of a home. So with that being said, I just think we should be mindful and over incentivizing large corporations to come here and putting the burden, you know, of services on our citizens with big impact fees and stuff like that. I think, you know, there's probably a happy balance to attract corporations here with offering a dynamic workforce and you know, getting people here. I know they look at unemployment rates and, you know, populations and stuff like that. So I think having educated people in our community is a big plus, and some people look at it, you know, as we don't want to become a bedroom community, and I understand that, but I think, you know, to attract industry, we've got to have people here willing to work.
And I just want to clarify something you said, touch on it. When you say an educated workforce, we're not talking doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. We're talking plumbers, welders. I mean, I got welder clients that making $100,000-$200,000 a year, drawing $100,000 retirement a year. Plumbers, I mean, those are the tried. Those are part of our workforce that we've been lacking, and what workforce we have, especially after mill closed, went south. And as Trevor pointed out, you know, it took us 900 years, it felt like, to get in a technical school here. And it's, we finally got it now, but it needs to be expanded, you know, and I know this, the high school, they're have I say revamped, and I don't want to speak too much for them, but I know they've got more of that type of training, going into the high school system now where they're training folks for these vocational skills, because they're needed. Anyway, is that it, Brian?
Yes, sir. I just had a couple of dates I wanted just to point out real quick. We're gonna, at the May 26th Board of Assessors meeting, we'll be approving the sales ratios. That's our, where we're measuring the level of assessment. Those are also the values and mailing of the assessment notices. We'll mail the notices on June the 3rd, and the last date to file an appeal, 45 days, will be July the 18th. So, if you don't agree with the value, you have, you'll get that notice in the mail and file the appeal, and, you know, we'll talk to you about it and see if we can come to some kind of a reasonable, conclusion to it, but that's all I have.
But when you show up on July the 20th to do it, you're gonna get your feelings hurt.
Yeah, that's
gotta
a
be
finite,
thorough.
that's a finite date if you've ever filed a,
Statutory.
yeah. If you've ever filed one, we do have people come in on that 46th day, and we unfortunately have to turn them around, or there's no kind of a, extension for any purpose that there is. Mr. Casey, going back to that Cabin Bluff property, those folks, they did come in and, they filed an appeal for that property to be tax exempt. It's, owned by, a church group out of Jacksonville, but the property's not in the church's name. They've actually created
LLC.
an LLC to buy this property, and that was one of the hangups with them getting the exemption. And we went all the way through the appeal and everything. Has been finalized. It's not tax exempt. And their final tax bill has been sent to them for 21. So,
But as we pointed out, yet,
Yeah,
because
no-
it's not been transferred over into that church name either.
no, sir, they have not done that. No, sir.
That would be next.
Right, and there's always next year, as we always say. So,
I assure you, they understand it.
they understand it very well. Yes, sir, they do.
Amen. Brian,
Well, thank y'all, Commissioner, for having me.
I know I had you up here a little longer than you planned it, but
Fine. No problem.
we've never really done an expanded look at the digest and,
Yeah.
and how it works, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. And I wanted to show who's responsible and not responsible, and what as commissioners we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah.
You call me up all day long about the value of your property, and I'm gonna say, I'm sorry. But I can't pick up the phone and call Brian, none of us can, and we're not. Just say, y'all paid his home 5,000, 20,000, 50 cents more than it should be. We can't.
Right. But if any taxpayers want to call me, just call the office and ask for me. I'll be glad to talk to any of you. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Brian. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir, no problem.
Good job.
It's on the website, if we could, you get it on the website.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, I think, you know, I had people come up telling me, my taxes went up in 21. I said, well, you know, what'd you have y'all? Well, I had so I said, your taxes didn't go up. The millage rate went down. Well, my taxes went up. They may have, if you lived in town, you need to go look at what taxes you're talking about. You know, it's just, the intent here was to give some clarification as to that process and how it relates to your tax bill. Anyhow, anybody with any other questions, we can certainly, Brian can answer them or just contact us. Anyway, I know everybody's ready to probably teach me, but I felt it was important. This brings us to our, first public comment section on items, featured on the agenda. Do we have anyone registered, Ms. Bishop?
I do not, did you want to speak on the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Marina, Jay Marina.
Raise up a little bit here. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Jay Marino. I live at 501 Victoria Circle in St. Mary's. I had not really taken a look at what the agenda was. So this was sort of serendipitous for me that we're discussing this thing about the digest. It was quite interesting. You might recall that a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, in Tribune of Georgian, I had a letter published that addressed my concerns about the plethora of apartment complexes that are going up. And I've subsequently sent you gentlemen some emails on that. And I've talked about it on social media. One thing that occurs to me, if you were to quantify the number of bedrooms in all of these apartments that are being built, are in the thousands, and assuming one warm body per bedroom, that means we're going to need thousands of people to fill those beds. Well, it turns out that if literally could climb over my back fence, I'd be on the back end of Brant Creek Apartments. And you remember what happened with Brant Creek Apartments? We had to delay them for a while till we got the right sewage capacity and blah, blah, blah.
I remember a lot of things.
I'm sure you did.
You discounted.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But what happened, as soon as those people opened, you've got almost hear this giant sucking sound, sucking tenants out of the established apartments like Park Place and so forth. They couldn't wait to move into the hot go new apartment complex. Now, I predict that that same exact phenomenon is going to happen when all of these new apartments are built out. So using the revenue theory of valuation, you're going to have a revenue valuation gain in the new ones, but you're probably going to have an offsetting loss in some of the older ones. And what I'm concerned about, if I'm the owner of, say, apartments and I get this giant sucking sound of my tenants leaving, I've got a choice. Do I look for a buyer? Do I bite the bullet and spend maybe several $100,000 sprucing up my place to attract some of those people so that I'm competitive with the new places, or what? So there's so many moving parts to this thing with all these apartment complexes. And any way you slice it, I maintain that if you took 100% of the people that are now living in the older apartments, moved them into the new apartments, you would still need thousands and thousands, a net increase of residents of this county to fill those things. And I'm just wondering, I would love to be a fly on the wall when these developers do their project. Where do they think these people are coming from? And what jobs are they going to work in Camden County? I was talking to the new editor of the Tribune of Georgia about this the other day, and he made the comment. He said when he was the editor down there in Fernandina, that he observed that there's an awful lot of people that work down there that live here because the cost of land is so exorbitantly high in Nassau County that nobody's building any apartments down there. That could account for some of it. We might even get that phenomenon north of us to Brunswick. But I still am concerned that we're going to have a whole lot of bedrooms in the apartment community here in the county. And we're just going to have to wait and see how it shakes out. But I think it bears watching. I think the planning and zoning people in the cities and the county need to be looking at this thing. And at some point, if it becomes obviously problematic, maybe we need to put the brakes on and say, hey, folks, let's just chill out on issuing the building permits for massive apartment complexes. Thank you.
All right, I think that was one of the points I was making, to look at that stuff. Is there anyone else, Ms. Bishop?
Not for this one, for the next one.
Is there anyone desiring to address the board that's not registered? Seeing no one, can I get a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a public hearing?
So moved.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Trevor. Mr. Yagabachi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. First up, I would like to conduct a first reading of the proposed changes to the alcoholic beverage section of the official code of Camden County for adoption. This proposal would be to update section 610, hours of sale, by striking the Sunday sales hours of 12:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. to reflect the new hours of 11 to 11:55 p.m. Now, this update will reflect the Sunday sale hours in House Bill 879 that was passed back in 2020. So staff would recommend approval of this first reading of the proposed amendments.
Does that essentially put us in line with the state?
It does, yes, sir.
Well, I get it. You know, kind of like as a child, when you go to your motel, well, you know, Bobby's doing it too. Bobby sticks his head in the fire, you going to too? Not necessarily do we always want to be in alignment with sale, and I'm fine with it, but that's basically what we're doing here.
Yes, sir.
And I know there's been some calls for it. All right. I guess on this public hearing thing, I need to see if there's anyone that's here to speak in favor of this change to our code of Camden County. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to it? Next one there, Joey.
Next up would be a request for a special use approval to allow a manufactured home in the R2 zoning district. This property is located off Hickory Bluff Drive in Waverly. Staff has inspected the uses in this neighborhood and has determined that there's a mixture of single-family homes and manufactured homes. So the Planning Commission recommends approval.
All right, is there anyone here desiring to speak in favor of this special use? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to it? Seeing none, next.
Next up would be another request for special approval to allow a manufactured home in a R1 zoning district. These lot numbers for these parcels will be lot numbers 47 and 48, and are located off Wren Road in Kingsland. Staff has inspected the uses in this neighborhood and has determined that there are only site-built single-family homes in this area. And the future land use for this area is residential. So the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request.
All right. Is there anyone here desiring to speak in favor of this special use? Seeing none, is anyone here desiring to speak against it? Thank you, Mr. Joey. This time, could I get a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting, please?
Motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're back in our regular meeting and you're still here.
Yes, sir. The first up will be the first reading of the proposed update to section 610, hours of sale, by striking the Sunday hours of 12:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. to new hours 11 a.m. to 11:55 p.m. Staff would recommend approval of the first reading.
All right. Can I get a motion on this, please?
Second.
First and a second. Any questions, comments, or thoughts? Seeing none? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Next up would be a request for special use approval to allow a manufactured home in an R2 zoning district. This property is located off Hickory Bluff Drive in Waverly. Planning Commission recommends approval of this request.
All right. Can I get a motion on this special use permit, please?
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Third.
Request for a special use approval to allow a manufactured home in an R1 zoning district. These parcel lot numbers are 47 and 48, located off Wren Road in Kingsland. The Planning Commission will recommend approval of this as well.
All right. Can I get a motion for this special use permit?
Make
Use.
a motion, we approve this, Mr. President.
We got a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Number 4.
Yes, sir. I'm here tonight to request approval of the contract for the Coastal Regional Commission to provide services to develop our 2023 Camden County Joint Comprehensive Plan. This will, as I said, this will be a joint effort among all 3 cities, and our part being $6,800 for the services provided. So with your approval of this contract, we will begin this process later on this month.
All right, can you get a motion on this contract, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anyone desiring to question and on it? We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, sir. Well, at this time it brings us to, Ms. Bishop is going to present. We have an appointment to be made to the Department of Family and Children's Services Board. It appears that we have what? 19 folks to look at, which is a fantastic problem. However, I'm gonna make a motion that we table this to give us an opportunity to consider all these 19 apparently qualified people and just try to see what would be the best fit for Department of Family and Children's Services. So could I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We'll bring it back, we'll try to bring it back into the next meeting and give us an opportunity to go through all these names. And I'm hoping that doesn't cause defects too much issues. Is Ms. McNamee, there you are.
Sorry.
You like to have this, you're always sitting in front of me and I never, you like you got your invisible shield on.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Ready. I totally thought something else was going to happen after you were speaking. I thought I had time. Approval to, I know. Approval to award contract for the Dover Bluff Road culvert improvements. This is going to be an expense of $209,064. I'm requesting the approval to award it to Development and Consulting. We have put this out to bid. The first time we put it out to bid, we had no bidders. Then we went out again after that. So the culverts do need to be repaired. We've had some concerns there for a little while. And at this point, we're going to use the remaining SPLOST 7 funds to go ahead and put a box culvert in there. We obviously have a lot more. Bridgepoint is going to be coming on. We have a lot of growth and a lot more. So instead of just replacing the culverts or trying to repair them and then having to come back in a few years and do something large. We've got a lot of beaver issues and a lot of dams, and the water has gotten very close to the road. So we decided that that would be the best option to increase the water flow to do that, as well as try to take care of the beaver population. So the existing culverts do need to be replaced. They are causing damage to the road. We received 2 bids. One was rejected because it did arrive late. So we did close that out. So the lowest responsible bidder was S&G Development and Consulting. This is a local contractor from here, so that was even a bonus.
Right.
So I would like to ask that we award the contract to S&G Development and Consulting.
You know, I was gonna ask you to give, understand some logic and reasoning for making these improvements to Dover Bluff. The things we need to do and things that's kind of somewhat preventive and somewhat anticipating what's gonna be happening there. So I think it's great. So can I get a motion? Sir?
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
How are we gonna work detouring the traffic there and replacing with a box culvert? I know the size of it is.
Yes.
How are we gonna handle it?
We're working with Robbie with the engineering, and we are trying to limit that because there's not a whole, I mean, the detour obviously Dozier Road. So we're going to carefully consider that and try to figure out how we can make it as minimal as possible. We are working to drain the water as well. We probably are going to have to pump it and do something else so that it can be faster when it does get opened up.
But you can't do half and half with a
No,
box culvert.
No.
All
no.
in one,
So
yeah, okay.
it's most likely, I mean, Lampadosia really is our only option. We just have to pick the slowest time of the day and the slowest time of the week. And
In the driest time of the year.
right.
I remember when they were doing the crossing there down from my office. DOT wanted to bid it out. And it was gonna be about a 3 or 4 month job. Long story short. DOT decided something they needed to do after extensive discussions. They came about 2 or 3 weeks. So anyway, good luck. I appreciate the background. Can you get a motion on this, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Ms. McNamee, thank you. Ms. Bishop,
I do have one update to the calendar. We have a proposed work session for the next meeting on May 17th at 5 o'clock. This is for the sheriff's office, purchase of, I think, the enterprise contract. If you remember that from a while back.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's what the topic of the work session will be, and I'll send you all a calendar invites. just to remind you.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple work sessions coming up as it relates to the current budget year. I think, we wanna have some public work sessions on that. Just to kind of give the opportunity or for the, a lot of people complain you don't, get up there and we're not throwing knives and shooting and slinging and cussing each other out. A lot of these things have to be done in that format because it's just, I can tell you now, going through the budget process, I'm looking at about 5 or 6 Fridays excluding these, work sessions here. And it's very time consuming. So you want to come watch them, come on. All right, anything else?
That's all I have.
Mr. Howard?
Mr. Eric, I got one item for Eric to present to y'all.
Oh, that's right.
Good evening, Eric Landon, County ARPA Manager. You may recall back in December, we started a new program with the ARPA funds. We partnered with the City of St. Mary's, with the Coastal Regional Commission to provide fare-free rides, with the other spelling of fare, to give anyone in our county or our municipalities a free ride using the coastal coaches. And to date, we've provided over 1,000 free trips to our citizens. And typically it's to those that are underserved and have no other alternative. And I've heard the most common ride is for medical needs. Dialysis would be a good example of folks getting treatment where otherwise they wouldn't have an opportunity to do so. So this is a great program, with the Regional Commission and with the City of St. Mary's. It was recognized this weekend, CG and Georgia Trends Magazine, as a project of excellence. And I think it was only one of 6 in the state to receive that award. So we're grateful to have that partnership and grateful to be recognized. And I'll give this to Katie and find a spot here to hang it up. We were given this nice plaque and recognition.
Well, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, that appears to be it. This brings us to our final public comment section.
David Rayner.
Good evening, Dave Rayner, Harriet's Bluff, and I'd like 20 seconds of grace period while I set up an easel real quick.
Pictures,
Yes.
they would probably understand what you're talking about. No pressure, Dave, but I know you're about as long-winded as I am, so I hope it's not a 30-minute presentation, is it?
Okay.
I enjoy it.
So one thing, I didn't know what was on the agenda tonight, but is it me or does anybody see the irony that tonight we were talking about the chief appraiser and all the digest, and that's been a lot in the news lately. And I'm a little disappointed that some of our that whine the most about the situation in the county aren't here. But if Mr.
Duly noted.
If Mr. Goodman were here, it was part of the negotiations of the Jacoby Mill property, and they'll go 10 years without paying any property taxes. And duly noted is, Mr. Steve Winkle puts in the paper that he's not going to have any apartments in District 2 And I just throw that to you guys about that surely somebody cares about low-income housing. And he also has in the paper, talks about a code enforcement arm where he'll have a county contractor be contracted out by the county to come and bring your house up to code and then put a lien on your house until you pay for it. And I just want to say, I don't think that's the way we want to do business here in this county. Now, as far as my, this is a tale of two other people. This is the Paulson. Hank Paulson was the CEO of Goldman Sachs. And he was also the U.S. Treasury Secretary under George W. Bush. So Mr. Paulson has gone on to have a foundation in which he calls it's called the Bobolink Foundation. Now, the Bobolink Foundation is a way of bringing money into the county. And I want to go through my slides on the dark money trail that's coming into this county from the Bobolink Foundation and the R. Howard Dobbs Jr. Foundation. And my first slide is the Bobolinks Foundation. And the Bobolink Foundation is, if you go to this website, ProPublica, says inside the tax records of the 0.001%. Well, we've heard of 1%ers. 1%ers is a term for the wealthiest of the wealthy. Well, these are even the wealthiest of the wealthy of the wealthiest. The Bobolink Foundation, if you go to ProPublica, has given millions of dollars to the 100 miles. Okay, then also go to ProPublica. The R. Howard Dobbs Jr. Foundation has also contributed to 100 miles. Okay, so I keep hearing a lot about follow the money, follow the money. This is following the money. So the money, just like Zuckerberg poured in lots of money in the state of Georgia for the last election, this is coming into our county. Okay, so then you got Bobolink Foundation, you got the R. Howard Dobbs Jr. 100 miles, the grant history, $1.6 million over the last 5 years. Okay, so where's it going? All right, Bobolink Foundation, 680,000 over 5 years to 100 miles. R. Howard Dobbs Jr. Foundation, 1.6 million over the past 5 years to 100 miles. Who is the mouthpiece of 100 miles? The Current. Current gets 1.6, gets 300,000 in grants. The Current every other week will have quotes from Mr. Steve Winkle and Mr. Goodman in it, and they never once had to be any kind of disclaimer between Megan Brochures of 100 miles and the Current. Both of these two are working together, bringing money into our county and trying to influence how we do business here in the county. So what I want to know is, we know that almost weekly, there are interviews of these two fellows right here. What I want to know is, if they want to be transparent, I want them to show us who's financing their campaign. That's all I have.
Well, I'm sure it was instant. I couldn't see it, but.
Right.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there anyone else? All right, at this time, I need to get a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene an executive session, not for legal, not for real estate, but it's exempt.
Motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a executive session.
Got a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. And as your boy Arnold said, we'll be back. to adjourn the executive session and reconvene the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. At this time, do we have any actions or motions to be made?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Motion to allow immediate purchase by the Camden County Sheriff's Office of security equipment and related software for Camden County Jail.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
I have another one, Mr. Chairman. Motion to approve the Camden County Sheriff's Office Service Maintenance Contract Renewal.
Second.
We got a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
One more. Motion to approve hardware refresh for Camden County IT Department.
Second.
We got a first and a second. All the. Feel like Oprah sitting up here. All right.
To adjourn.
Can I start saying, can I get one more motion?
Second.
We got a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank y'all.